All right, well, let's get to it.
Okay.
Great. Who am I and what am I doing here?
You are Matthew Oliphant, and you are interviewing me for your podcast.
Right, that makes sense.
Would you like to know who I am and what I'm doing here?
I think that was the question I was supposed to ask. I
Okay.
apologize.
No, it's cool. It's
This
cool.
is only my 17th time doing this, so.
You're also probably more used to asking neurotypicals questions, and they will answer the question that is intended instead of the question that is asked. I'm Cami Kaos, and I'm
Have you seen
here.
the show?
No, I told you I don't watch
Yeah,
podcasts.
yeah,
I
you
don't.
shouldn't. Yeah. I know. I was telling someone the other day, they were like, I don't really watch podcasts. Sometimes I listen to them. I was like, I have a podcast and I don't listen or watch to them. Watch to them? Yeah,
Yeah,
whatever.
I
I
started
stand
a
by it.
I started a podcast like almost 20 years ago that ran for years and years and years. And I've done other podcasts off and on. And listening to podcasts is painful to me, especially if I'm on them. I will listen to this one because I'm on it and I will want to know what I said because I'm not going to remember any of this when we stop talking.
Yeah. Oh, same.
Yeah,
Right. I mean, but that's why we're recording it so that we don't
exactly.
have to remember. Yeah.
Exactly.
We're documenting it. Cami, welcome to the show.
Thank
Hi.
you.
How are you doing today? Let's
I'm
put the
okay.
radio voice on.
Yeah, let's get our radio voices.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
some
that
smooth
sounds like a
jazz.
smooth jazz. Yeah. So, I mean, let's be real here, people. Do you want to do this like old school podcast way or Matthew style?
Matthew style, please.
Great. We've been doing it this whole time.
Fantastic.
So that's convenient. So one of the things that brings you here today is you were told to come here. Yeah, we won't name names because that guy gets enough
He does.
screen time. What?
But he told
what
me in such he told me in a very not unusual way, I guess. The person said to me, "Hey, you need to talk to Matthew about his podcast." And I said, "Okay," because it's a trustworthy human. And so I reached out to you and said, "Hey, I was told to reach out to you about your podcast." And you said,
Great. You have done so.
"Yes,
Good day.
yes." And then he was like, "About what?" And I was like, "Oh,
All right.
I don't know the answer to that question. I was
Yeah.
just told to reach out." And so I did.
Yeah. And you did it well. And I
Thank you.
said kudos.
Thank you. You did.
So
I got accolades for the reaching out. After some additional conversation, we managed to decipher that the person thought that I needed to be a guest on Matthew's show.
that's correct.
And apparently he just gets to book people on whatever he wants to. So,
Yeah. That's correct.
yeah. Okay.
I work for that person.
That person works for me, but
Yeah. Oh, so really I'm working for you.
I'm the boss of the
Okay.
entire world. Mwah.
Wouldn't that be great?
No,
No, I don't want the pressure for that.
I don't want to be the boss of anyone, not even myself most of the time.
I was thinking about this recently, and I think, and I'm saying this sort of in a snarky way because that's my oeuvre. Bailiwick? No. Yeah, the whole thing's going to be like this, people. So settle in. Um,
Disconnection.
yes, thank you for labeling me.
I'm not
Um,
labeling you, I'm labeling us.
I'm labeling your actions, not you. Um, is that the snarky sentence is something akin to the biggest con is that we should be acting like grown-ups.
Agree.
And I just the more time I spend being a grown-up, the more I realize that that's just total BS.
I have been a grown up for 38 years. Oh, 30,
Yeah.
excuse me, 30 years of my life.
Hmm.
I did not enjoy being a child. It was not a great experience for me.
Same.
Being an adult is better, but it's not because it's an adult. It's just because I'm no longer subject to the whims of every person on earth.
And we don't have to get into anything that you don't want to get into or that I don't want to get into, but I'll project through a
Okay.
question. Let's label what I'm doing. When you were a kid, the childhood that you didn't enjoy,
Hmm.
was there an aspect to that where you were required, might not be the right word, but required to be a grown up as a
Yeah.
kid? Yeah.
Latchkey kid all the
Yeah.
way. So from kindergarten, probably, I had my own
Mhm.
key to let myself in the house. My parents both worked in San Francisco later when I was a teenager. And so
And you
all,
lived in Boston.
and I lived in Boston. No, I was down
Yeah.
in a place called
Yeah.
Vacaville. So it was like at least a 90-minute to 3 hour commute for them every day. So I was just on my own and with my brother. And I moved so frequently, like every 3 years as a child, that I was just incredibly used to walking into a space and being like, okay, this is who I am. All of it was fake. It wasn't I had no
Yeah.
idea
Yeah.
who I was, but
Yeah.
I was able to walk into these spaces and just be like, hello, this is me. I am here. Let me run everything for you. And
Mhm.
that's been my coping mechanism my entire life. It's not healthy, in
That's an
case you wondered.
interesting. No, I was. Uh, I mean, it's sort of like a combination of wondering it and living it, but yeah,
Yeah.
um, yeah. I also probably kindergarten to first grade ish in that area. Um, but like I just my parents worked in town, but like I just remember coming home a lot and there's just nobody there, nobody there,
As a
and
as a little child, I don't think it matters where they are in proximity to you or even how long they're gone, just walking into that house by yourself.
mhm.
As an adult, I get nervous walking into a house by myself sometimes. I'm like, oh, what am I going to find? What's happening? I mean, I've got that ever present fear that I'm going to walk into a bathroom and then there's going to be a corpse in the shower or something. I had all that when I was a kid too, but I didn't have any of the coping mechanisms or the
Yeah, of
ability
course.
to self-soothe. And so, yes, it was quite nightmarish. I think that there are kids from our generation that loved it. I know one.
I mean, there were aspects that I loved.
Yeah.
There were aspects that were great then and looking back on it.
Yeah.
But it's sorry, we're having a classic Gen X
We
conversation here,
we
but
are.
like the number of times that I almost died all the way through high school,
Yeah.
and it's fine.
I could not count those, and I am quite certain, though my daughter is a capable young woman, she would not have survived the 70s and 80s intact.
No, kids these days are weak.
Yeah. No, we
Yeah,
just we actually protected them a little too well.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So you mentioned a moment ago about coping mechanisms and self-soothing. I don't think you said strategies, but I'll say that word.
I like the
Do
alliteration
you?
of it.
It's my special interest. um, do you have those now?
Yeah.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
let's put more labels on things. Uh, I have autism
There.
and I have ADHD
You are welcome in this space.
and
Just because you fit in.
yeah,
So
and a
thank you.
litany of other letters and words that
Mhm.
doctors and psychiatrists and counselors and therapists have tagged onto my identity over the years, some of which are kind of alleviated. They're like, oh, you're not this. You have autism. You have ADHD. We were wrong. We were wrong. But my entire life, I was just
Mhm.
considered very high strung, too emotional, unwilling to pay attention, difficult, uh, picky. Uh, yeah, those are
But
some.
enough about me. Let's talk about you.
Right. So, you were late diagnosed as well, or were you
Yeah.
diagnosed? Okay. So I was diagnosed in my 40s, first with ADHD, and this is, I am not an expert on ADHD or on autism. I've had them my entire life. I know very little about them except for what I have learned in my deep rabbit hole special interest once I was diagnosed. So when I was diagnosed with ADHD, I was like, oh my God, thank the heavens. Finally, we know what's going on with my brain. I thought
Mhm.
I just, I thought because I had been repeatedly told that I just had anxiety and panic disorder. And so the ADHD diagnosis was like this miracle weight off of my shoulders. And then my daughter said, Mom, I think you need to get screened for autism. And I was like, No, I've been diagnosed with ADHD. I can't be autistic too. And she was like,
Yeah.
You naive child.
Just one thing, not
Yeah.
two things.
And so I wound up talking to my psychiatrist, and I was like, Wait, so I can, it's not just the ADHD? And she's like, Oh, no, you need to talk to another diagnostics
Mhm.
psychiatrist for sure. And I was like, ugh. So months and months, and before you go through the testing, you go through the testing. You do all the tests online. You're interested, and I went into my diagnostic session convinced that I did not have autism and that I was exaggerating all of these pinpointed items that they have found in the lives of people that tell them you're
Yeah.
autistic. And I was like, I probably just do that because I think it's cool. Nobody thinks it's cool to walk 3 laps around your house every night before you go to bed, checking locks and water and making sure that everything is where it's supposed to be and closing the curtains the right way. That's not it's not a thing you do because it's fun.
No, it's the thing you do because that's what you do.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, I mean, not to get all armchairy about this, but like you're describing that, and I'm like, that's both ADHD and autism, and but
So,
because like the ADHD part is the habit part,
yes.
is the routine
Well,
part,
the for
and the
me it's
oh, is it really?
so autism
Oh, isn't it
thrives
weird how it? Yeah,
mhm,
go ahead. Sorry.
thrives with routine, thrives with schedule. My like I can feel myself getting emotionally stronger. And then the more I just follow my routine and follow my habit, like I get up in the morning, I drink some tea, I do some yoga, I eat some breakfast, I play some video games on my iPad. This is my like morning routine. I get
Yeah,
through all that and I feel, even if I feel like crap when I wake up, I feel more sane. Also, a lot of medication, if we're being honest.
we are.
I am, yeah, very highly medicated, and that feels great. But there's this little chaos demon in my brain, hence my last name, that just screams no. And she's the other Cami, and she just wants to do anything except the routine, anything except
Right.
what I am supposed to do. If I'm supposed to get up and go somewhere, I would like to spend the day in bed. We're not getting up.
Yeah, it's the persistent drive for autonomy stuff,
Yeah.
or I
And
don't like the pathological.
pathological
What?
sounds intentional
Yeah, I can't remember.
or
I've been training myself to not say the pathological one. I've been trying to say, and now I'm messing up both of them. But
ADHD. It
persistent
takes your
drive for
words.
autonomy. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Um. Yes.
And also, ADHD tends to mask autism, especially in
Hmm.
women, which I only know because I had to go through the process.
Yeah. Yeah. Just
So,
and also, since we're being honest today, I'm having a really hard time regulating today.
if we need to go
So,
and start over again or
oh
do it,
no,
okay.
oh no. This may not be
No.
a live show, but we're treating it like a live show.
Okay, good.
So I've got
Cool.
too much theater kid in me to be like, no, we're shutting it down.
I'm trying not to ask questions because
Why would you not ask questions?
okay, can I, because I'm much better at being an interviewer than interviewing.
So
And
here's my
so I was
pitch for
trying to
this.
like,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Here's my pitch for this show
Okay.
is I don't actually want to interview you. I want to have a conversation with you that happens to be recorded.
Fantastic. I have a question for
So
you.
we can go wherever we want to go. You can ask whatever you want to ask. I can answer. I cannot answer. You can answer. You cannot answer.
At what
Like normal
age,
people.
at what age do you think you started masking? your ADHD and autism symptoms, acknowledging that you probably had no idea you had them.
Hmm. Yeah.
Do you know when that happened for you?
I haven't thought deeply about it, but I've thought a little bit about it. And as much as I've been able to come up with, partly because I don't have a lot of memories before age 13, I think it happened sort of in two stages.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that because I was probably from around kindergarten, first grade to about, I don't know, maybe through just starting into seventh grade, I was ridiculously physically active, but organized sports kind of
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
And
Was it a
especially,
was it a run the energy out of you kind of thing?
I think it was, and it worked.
Yeah.
Um, I still had trouble with um, learning things I wasn't interested in. I mean, I think everybody has that, but it gets amplified. Um,
I'm
I
working
still
on
had,
not belittling us. Not everyone has that. Some people can learn about anything. That really we do not have to make space
I
for
know.
other people's normalcy. It's okay for you to acknowledge that you can't learn things that you don't want to pay attention to.
Okay.
I'm bossy.
Maybe I'll believe that someday.
I want you to. I don't believe it about myself, but I know I should, so I tell everyone else.
So in my novel,
Mm.
just kidding. But at the end of the novel, when I for the about the author stuff,
Yeah.
I very specifically wrote that something along the lines of anybody who is trying to should you into a way of being is selling you something and you shouldn't listen to them. Shouldn't. Um, but
Yeah.
I feel like there's very few shoulds,
Yeah.
like really. And lately I've been shame shoulding myself,
I'm
I guess.
sorry. Yeah.
And so that's why it's picking up. So two stages. It was, but during that first stage, definite persistent drive for autonomy.
Hmm.
Did I say authority earlier? I didn't mean that.
No, you said
Because
autonomy.
because I had a lot of problems with authority figures. Some of them
It might be the same person.
were just like, "Hey, I just don't understand where you're coming from,"
Hmm.
all the way to you're beating my head against the wall for spelling a word wrong. So it's like that spectrum of hi kids today. How's school? Were you violently beaten by a teacher? No? Good job.
They're not allowed to do that anymore. That's one of the
They're not
nice
allowed to do
things.
that anymore.
Yes,
Yeah.
I also have had that
I know it
experience, but
probably happens, um but so I just learned and spent a lot of time really being, because I was alone and quiet a lot when I wasn't running, being very observant.
hmm.
And so I'd watch these interactions play out between adults. I'd watch them play out between adults and kids and just be like, it's all bullshit.
Yeah.
You all are bullshitting us.
Hmm.
And then the second stage happened when I went to high school and still not aware of it. But the high school I went to was weird.
Weird how?
You didn't have to go to class if you didn't want to.
Was it like Montessori style or
No, well, I only have a passing familiarity with what Montessori is, but it was modeled
same.
after Summerhill in the UK,
Okay.
and like one of the standard Summerhill stories was in the boys' dorm. They were goofing off. They broke a window. The teachers came in. They were like, "What's going on? Window's broken. Can you fix it?" And they were like, "No." Are we in trouble? No. And they slept with cold room for a few days, and then they said, how can we fix it? And I'm like, great, let's fix it.
Yeah.
And that's what my high school was like. It's like, hey, you don't want to go to class today? No problem.
I might have actually attended that. I might have actually gone to school if that had been
Yeah.
the
I mean, it
environment that I
was
had.
it was great.
Yeah.
but I think it also really highlight like it it basically said you have full autonomy over yourself.
Yeah, which is what you
there
had been
there are
seeking.
some guardrails,
Yeah.
like if you the one I ran into was, oh, I didn't go to class all term and I failed. Wait, what? What's happening? I don't understand. There's consequences. Luckily I learned that in ninth grade. I learned it early.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it that was like the other end of the spectrum of dealing with systems and dealing with bureaucracy and organizations and trying to find a place in it. So I found a better place at that high school level.
Was ninth grade middle school for you or high school for you?
It was high school.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, we were just 7 and 8 for middle school.
I was too, but
I
they
understand
they
the question
changed
though.
they
Yeah.
changed everything. They've changed it all since we were
Yeah.
young.
Yeah, it was better in the old. No, I'm just kidding.
It was not.
It was not. Yeah. So it's, and then I guess now I'm in, fast forward 30 years or however old I am. And now I'm sort of in stage 3 of trying to figure this shit out.
Yeah.
And looking back over the rest of, or the previous part of my life, I have these moments of like, oh, okay. Yeah, I understand why that relationship spiraled and crashed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, my diagnosis also gave me a lot of input into some of my past relationships and a little bit more grace for some people who I had less grace for than I should have.
Except for Gary.
No,
Who
God,
can
not
all agree
Gary.
Gary? Yeah, not Gary.
Gary's the worst. I hope
Yeah,
you, no, I don't actually. I do know a guy named Gary, and he
yeah.
is literally the worst. I love him so much. He's a former coworker, and he would agree that he's the worst. So,
Gary's just my go-to name for somebody. It's like Newman,
yeah, that that
and
works. Davia
and
is my go-to. I need to make up a human.
oh, really?
Yeah,
Okay.
Davia. It's
Maybe I should be more abstract with my naming rather than.
it comes from when I was like very young and in bars, and people would hit on me, and I would give them a fake name, and I would say I was from Estonia and
Oh yeah.
fake an Estonian accent. I had no idea what an Estonian accent sounded like, but I was in a bar and people were drunk and it worked really well. I wouldn't do that now, but
No, no.
Davia from Estonia.
Yeah. My
Yeah.
go-to was being deaf, but recently deaf and
Okay, I was gonna
learning to
say
read lips.
I always want to do that, but I'm
Yeah.
afraid that someone who actually knows ASL, which I do not, will try to talk
The
to me,
thing
and then I'm an
the
asshole.
thing
And that
it's
is an asshole thing
harder.
to do. But
Yeah, it's harder when, because then you have to not react when they throw something at you. So, um, but I only use that for like the people who I know are like, you're just here to be an asshole on
yeah,
this planet, and
yeah.
you get nothing from me. Yeah. So, but Gary, and specifically, um, this all went back to a talk I gave in a talk I gave in Germany.
Oh my
So
goodness.
international.
International speaker, Matthew
Yeah.
Oliphant.
The hey, we need someone to fill in 10 minutes here because of something. Could you do it, Matthew? I was like, okay. I wasn't actually invited, but the the hotel that we stayed at had, it was kind of nice and I didn't realize it, and it had these like 15-foot ceilings and floor to ceiling blackout curtains,
Oh.
and it was right next to the Bahnhof, the train station.
Hmm.
So like it was nice to be able to cut out the city lights in Berlin, but the temperature control for the place had a light that didn't dim or turn off, and so it lit up the room, and
And
I
this is
just looked at
before you
that and I
learned
was
to
like,
travel with
Gary did
duct
that.
tape.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes, Gary.
uh
Gary's an ass.
yeah, and I think this is a long-winded segue of talking about surviving in tech with our brains, because especially, not especially for me, being, there's this, Word. It's kind of like, it's
It
not
is so
heuristic. It's not really fun.
refreshing. It is so
Yeah.
refreshing talking to you because I also do the exact same thing when I can't remember a word. I just word, word, and sometimes that
Word.
guy whose name we won't mention will just tell me
Hmm.
what word I'm looking for. It's very helpful, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Anyway,
Word,
it's kind of like rule of thumb. It's like a s- um, I don't know.
source of
Anyway,
truth.
sure. It is a source of truth, but it's like, it's not limited just to the profession of UX,
Okay.
but it seems to be heightened in UX people.
Okay.
But that just might be my bias because that's who I know the most. It's once you really delve into how products and services get designed and delivered and used, you start seeing everything in everything. Like, everything's broken.
Yes.
It's like the temperature controls in the hotel.
Yeah.
Like, some idiot said, "We're going to have this great experience. You can sleep. Oh, except for this one thing." It's so hard to not look at the world like present calamity excluded
Yeah.
for the moment and say, like, it's just so hard for everybody to get through the world, let
Yeah.
alone somebody who doesn't, uh, who thinks differently.
When I started my advocacy work in tech, and that's really the work I'm most inspired by, I did not know that I had ADHD or autism, and I was working very hard to find appropriate accommodations for neurodiverse individuals.
Mm-hmm.
And it was always, I have such a difficult time and I'm regular. Imagine the struggle for people who are not like me, not realizing the entire time that I was working to support people who were like me. It's an impossibility because I'm about to go on a straight white cis man, neurotypical man rabbit hole. Just, I'm going to warn you all. Tech is largely curated by straight white cis men who are neurotypical and fucking rich. I hope I can say bad words. Um, and
Yeah,
so,
the word "rich" is allowed here.
okay, good. Eat them all. Sorry, sorry. Political, political. Back to the
Oh,
point. Back to the point of it. When you're trying to take something that was built by a person who built something for their own needs, and that's how we design largely, that's how we
sure.
create for ourselves or for someone very close to us. We're trying to solve a problem. And when you're
Mm-hmm.
trying to solve a problem for a neurotypical person who is fully abled and the world feels like it was built for them, they're not going to notice they're not going to notice that that light is on and that it's going to keep us awake at night. They're not going to notice that underneath the sound of the fan and the air blowing and the humming, there's an electrical whine that is going to keep everybody who can hear it up at night. They're not aware that if they give instructions in this cute little way, that there are going to be people there left wondering what the fuck they're talking about. And it's deep. It's from the very foundation of these organizations, and we just continue to perpetuate it because those people who create those companies recommend more people for hire there, and they're like them, they look like them, they sound like them, they play like them, and then we
Yeah.
just this horrible cycle of hiring the same people over and over again. And AI is reinforcing it. If you haven't ever looked at AI in hiring, oh my god, I'm on a tangent, I'm just going to stop, but I love AI for certain things. AI in hiring is good for people who can afford an education or an editor who can do all of the SEO and fit all those fucking keywords into your resume. It is ridiculous. People are not actually looking for humanity right now, and it is very upsetting to me.
All right. Well, we've run out of time. Um,
Bye, everybody.
yeah. Yeah, I think so. I'm going to put on my. This is a joke, very inside joke. Doesn't matter. I'm going to put on my empathy hat now.
Okay.
Um, there's an aspect of everything that you described which from a lens, and this is my other thing is like never take advice from anybody, just seek perspectives.
I like
Um,
that.
it's good advice. Um, the Thank you. There's an aspect of what you described which is totally fine. It's totally human
Mhm.
to
I've
work to solve your own problems and
I'm not trying
then
to make that
hope.
yeah, I'm not trying to make
No,
that
I know you're
evil.
not.
Okay.
I know you're not. It's I'm setting that foundation
Okay.
to build on. Um, Work with me here, people. And there's an aspect of like, of course, you want to bring in the people who think like you because you think the way you think. I'll get there. Is the way the thinking has to happen to solve the problems because that's the point of reference that you started from. And so it all makes sense. All right, so foundation. There's an aspect of what you're talking about that it doesn't negate or undermine that very human way of being, but I think the the missing piece, and I'm going to leverage something I heard recently from Thomas Lennon. I think he's a comedian,
Okay. I believe
uh,
you.
and he was. It's trying to attribute correctly.
Mm,
He was talking about like he used a very extreme example, but he was talking about how like people don't correct other people anymore.
it's true.
Like when you and I were kids, there was a lot of correcting going on. The method by which the correcting was done, not always great.
Right.
But when you
Nuh-uh.
were,
Nuh-uh.
nuh oh, it was always great. Okay.
No, that was how I was corrected
Yeah.
often.
Oh, I see. But right, but like it's kind of like, and I'm not picking on other generations in that way, but I think that it's kind of one of those because we were treated so poorly, we want to not treat our kids so poorly. And then that sort of continues on, and we just don't
We
call people on
overcorrected.
things.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
overcorrected.
And I think there's an aspect to like why I think in a lot of ways Gen X is the silent generation because we just got in so much trouble for trying to live
Yeah.
and we just are tired of it.
I think the biggest trouble I ever got into as a child was one time for lying, and I was not lying. Like,
Hmm.
hand to
Yeah.
something I find sacred, my iced tea.
Hmm.
I was cornered up a tree by a boar, and that's why I was home late for dinner.
Yeah.
And I just, I don't see kids these days finding themselves in that situation because we wouldn't let them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, long story short, like I understand where how these people got to where they're at, right?
Yes.
Because the system's designed that way and
And
it makes it really easy to reinforce that system.
confirmation
And
bias may have been a phrase
yeah, and I
that
think
you
that
look,
there's
yeah.
just not enough correcting going
Yeah.
on. I think it happens,
Yes.
but it's just not
People going
systemic
unchecked.
enough.
I mean, we've got people going unchecked as the primary
Right.
issue in our country right now. We're
Yeah.
not calling anyone on anything, and even when we do, oh well. Let's
Right.
see this other shiny distracting thing over here. Not
Yeah.
I'm not a fan of it.
No, it's and the calling, I feel like this is a feel statement. I feel like the calling that does happen is on things that are not they're not challenging at all and they don't cost you anything potentially.
Do you
And I
want to
think
talk
that's
about the
I
difference
do.
between calling in and calling out?
Uh yeah, all right.
Okay. So Easy explanation. Calling out is when you see something and you say something publicly to the person or about the person that this is wrong. Calling in
Mhm.
is when you seek to have a private conversation to understand
Yeah,
what
yeah,
the
yeah.
person was saying and to work with them to fix it.
Yeah.
I am a huge fan of calling in. I do a lot of calling in. I am not a fan of calling out
Is that
because
what this is about? That's why you're
I'm
here today?
calling you out.
Yeah.
No. I'm calling you out. You need to have more neurodiversity on your podcast, even though I've never
Okay.
watched a single episode.
Yeah.
Um, that's not true. I watched the one episode with that one guy. Uh,
Yeah.
but what was I talking about? Oh, calling in versus
Calling in,
calling out.
calling out. Yeah.
Calling in is a way to allow people to protect
Hmm.
their professional and personal appearance. I think it's a better way to build allyship because when you smack someone on the nose with a newspaper and tell them they did a bad thing, you're the last person they want to talk to when they recover. It doesn't mean that we don't have to do it sometimes. I find 99.9% of the people, when they go to do things, they're not doing it to be bad. Even when they do something that I look at and go, that's despicable. You have a
Hmm.
company that's 12 people and they are 12 people who all look exactly the same.
Yeah.
They didn't do that because they were
It's a
trying to hurt
lack
somebody
of
else. Right. They were
thinking.
like, these are the people I know that are going to do this best.
Mhm.
Let's do it. So I always try for calling in when I can. But also, I have called people out and I've been trained not to call people out because as a woman, I get silenced enough. I get shut down enough. And I find
Mhm.
in my history, when I have corrected people that needed to be corrected, it did not serve me well. And I wonder if that's why other Gen Xers and other folks do the same thing. I've lost
Yeah.
opportunities. I have been exiled. I've been mocked pretty mercilessly. I know I've had shit talked about me behind my back. Everybody has. Yeah,
Hey, you don't have to include them. It's just about us right now.
that was for
Yeah.
you, Matthew.
Yeah. I know.
No.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't think that I've ever. I think I've heard the term calling in. I've never used it that way. One of the things that I talk to like people who've worked for me or reported to me or whatever, depending on what the anyway.
Structure.
Yeah, that I really try and when they run into a wall, they run into someone who's being intransigent. Like
It's a good
I
word.
really try and get them to focus on what are you trying to accomplish. Do you want to feel better about that interaction, or do you want things to change? Because if you only want to feel better about the interaction, just go fucking yell at them
Hmm.
in an open Slack channel or whatever. Because you're absolutely right, they're wrong. Go for it. If you want change, you've got to talk to them in private because if you do it in public, they'll become embarrassed and they will hold on more strongly to their position. And so I think that that's kind of where I was going, and I'm not at all picking on you, but one of the things I thought of while you were talking about your history with finding these diagnoses is that I know or I've seen conversations, debates, arguments revolve around what to me feels very silly of making a distinction between I have autism and I am autistic
I
and
struggle with
the
that one.
phrasing behind those.
Yeah.
Again, you didn't do anything wrong, but it was something that came to mind.
Yeah.
And every once in a while I'm drawn out of the conversation and I'm imagining someone watching this and I'm like, oh, there goes the comment, like
Yeah. Absolutely.
and that's the kind of like calling out shit that's like this low
Now
stakes.
that
You're
that
just
kind of shit I do
being
call out. Like if someone says I'm autistic instead of I have autism, which I do. Matthew just called me out on it. Also, anytime someone misgenders somebody, I find that the people I associate with aren't going to misgender somebody out of
yeah,
cruelty. It's just out
but
of,
but I think again, like to me, when you're doing it out in front of everybody, it's not you're more likely going to hurt that person even though that person was hurting.
yes.
And so one, you're causing harm,
Hmm.
and
Take no
two,
shit, but do no harm.
yeah, but two, you're potentially reinforcing that position because if they have a persistent drive for autonomy, they're going to be like, don't tell me what to do.
Exactly.
And if they don't have that persistent drive, they may still do it because they're embarrassed, and the natural reaction is to shut down, close in, and hold on to what you know,
Yeah.
and be less open for change.
I am completely, you've just described me if someone embarrasses me by correcting me about something big. I'm a
You're very human then.
Yeah, I'm happy to be like, I don't know, let's find out. I don't have to know anything,
Yeah.
but when I'm
I
wrong
know
or
very few
hurtful,
things.
yeah. There are like three instances in my life where I said something that I didn't know what I was saying,
Mm-hmm.
that haunt me.
I just have one. It was at the end of a talk, and someone asked a question, and I didn't know, and I tried to answer anyway. And halfway through, I was like, holy fuck, I don't know what I'm talking about. Thankfully, I said that out loud
That,
and backed
see,
away, but it was
yeah,
still embarrassing
yeah,
because I was trying to be helpful,
yeah.
but I was not being helpful.
When I worked with volunteers, and then this transition to everyone that I worked with, I had one instance where a volunteer answered a question completely wrong. And I asked her if she had really thought that that was the answer. I was like, I feel like, did we miscommunicate something? It
Mm-hmm.
was, can I bring my wife who's not attending this conference to the after party? And she was like, yes, sure, of course you can. And the answer was we were paying like $50 per person and it was completely sold out.
Yeah.
And no, you can't bring someone who's not a ticketed attendee. And at that moment, I was like, from now on, the answer to every question that is not on your piece of paper is, I don't know, but let's find out. And it just stuck with me
Yeah.
and it is my go-to phrase for every part of my life.
So when you just said a moment ago, everyone you're working with, what did you mean?
You would have to give me more context on what I said around it.
Oh, that's the worst because now I don't remember. I was hoping you'd remember. Wait, let's go back to the recording.
Oh, everyone I was
Um,
working with. Okay. No, no, no. I know what you're talking about.
yeah.
Uh, I am not currently employed. I'm trying to figure out what I want to do when I grow up. My last long term role was working within the WordPress community.
Mm-hmm.
And I worked not only with employees of Automatic, the company I was working for, but I was sponsored to work full time on the open source project. So my leadership role involved a lot of organizers and community members and folks who are not getting paid to do what they're doing. And so I find, especially with those folks, they're not getting paid to be there. You have to treat them with the utmost respect.
Right. Yeah. So only because you brought it up a little bit when we were typing back and forth. Burnout.
Yes.
Do
Um,
you want to talk about it, or do you want to not talk about that?
I don't want to talk about it. I will say
All right.
I got completely burnt out at my job
Mm-hmm.
and then later discovered that I guess I will talk about it. I got burnt out.
Don't have to.
No, I want
I can
to.
always cut this part out too.
Okay.
So.
I was in a stressful situation at work and had been. I went on my first very long business trip since the pandemic overseas. And when I came home, I normally crashed after travel, but I came home and I went to bed, I think, for 3 days. I felt super sick. I was afraid I had COVID. I couldn't get in to see my doctor. I went in to see a different doctor. They were like, no, you don't have COVID, but you should rest and see your own doctor. So I went and saw my doctor, who promptly told me that I needed to take 2 weeks of medical leave because several systems of my body were shutting down, in addition to my brain being mush.
Mm-hmm.
And this led to a huge, long process that eventually led to the diagnosis of autism
Mm-hmm.
and ADHD, because it wasn't a nervous breakdown, it wasn't burnout, it was autistic burnout.
Yeah.
Uh, and I had, I'm still relearning some of what I know. I went back to work after 3 months. After 2 weeks, I went back to my doctor. My doctor said, "You're not going back to work." I wound up taking 3 months off with the paid care. I can't even remember the acronym, but the Family Emergency Healthcare,
FMLA.
FMLA. Yeah.
Yeah.
Went back to work for a little while. Still couldn't function. And part of that was because I had boundaries in place now, and my boundaries were not functioning with my the environment I was working in had very much gone to, we want you to work 90 hours a week and kill yourself for us. I don't care how long it takes for you to get your work done, get it all done, and then get some more done. And I and I
Sorry.
was having, no, I know, but
Yeah.
I mean, I'm describing most startups right now. Actually, there's a
Yeah.
job I applied for on which they asked if I was comfortable with the startup hustle. And I'm pretty sure my answer is why they rejected me, because I was
Right.
like, I have been
Like,
in and
are
out
you
of
fucking
startup
kidding me?
hustle my entire life. I don't
Yeah.
hustle for the sake of hustle, and I won't make my
Yeah.
employees hustle either.
That's right.
Um,
Because there's no reason to hustle,
right.
really.
So, yeah. So I had an autistic breakdown, an autistic burnout, and and serious depression probably went along with it. And I spent months in recovery, thankful for my family and my partner and my friends, some of whom I didn't speak to the entire time. I really went under a hill.
Mm, I get it.
And coming out the other side and not being beholden to some of what I was beholden to before, and understanding there's this, I hear a lot of this. When someone is diagnosed with autism, they suddenly act a lot more autistic. And I was
That's
like,
right.
no, that's not true. And then, yes, it's totally and completely true. But it's
Hmm.
not because they're faking it. That's the thing. Like, people are like, you're faking the autism now. No, I just am suddenly aware that I have been, like, I've always known I had certain masks. One of them we call Barbie Cami, and that's who you're going to meet anytime you're at an event. If I'm talking to you like this, you're talking to Barbie Cami, and I can hold that personality for days. I have to
Hmm.
for events, and then once it's over, complete crash out. But I didn't realize some of my other, like, you've got masks just for sitting on your couch if someone's on the phone with you. I mean, there was it let me understand that there was literally not a moment in my life that I was not masking. And as a person with intense empathy, there's often the misunderstanding that people with autism lack empathy. Some people with autism uh,
We have too much.
overload of
Not too much,
empathy.
but yeah,
I, I mean,
it's weighty.
it accounts for my depression and anxiety for most of my
Yeah.
life. You feel everyone else's feelings. So yeah, it was just it's amazing to sit down and tear away the parts of your personality that aren't you.
Hmm.
And I also got to look back. People were like, "Oh, you can make eye contact. You shake hands." When I was in eighth grade, ninth grade, my father made me take a public speaking class. I was super into drama and theater, as I think you
Hmm.
were.
Hmm.
And my dad was like, "That's fine, but if you're going to do that, you need to learn how to be yourself on stage." And that was the dumbest thing I'd ever heard. But I did. I took the class, and it was great, and I
Okay.
excelled in it. And I was not myself at any point ever. It just gave me this very helpful new mask that I've used in my entire adult life to talk to people, to shake hands, to make eye contact with people, even though I don't want to. I went to an event the other day, and it was the first event that I went to where I was like, let's just see. I wasn't running it. It was like a flash mob for small business, and I
Oh, is
just
the
Ankeny Alley.
Hank in the Alley one? Yeah.
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 And we sat outside of Shanghai Tunnel, and I didn't really talk to people, and I didn't really look at people, and I just listened and sat, and occasionally would point out something that was needed. And I left that event not stressed out and completely relaxed, and very aware that I had made some people who don't know me uncomfortable. And
Yeah.
it took everything, every ounce of me not to be like, I'm not rude, I'm autistic, I have autism, I need to correct my language skills. It takes every ounce of me not to tell people why I'm being weird. They don't need to know why I'm being weird. They might not even not be paying enough attention to me to think I'm weird.
Yeah.
But when
That's
they
fair.
look at me funny, I can tell.
Yeah.
When
Like,
you give me a
what?
funny look, I know.
Yeah. I have host Matthew and guest Matthew. That's how I put it.
Nice.
And if I'm running an event, I'm actually okay. Largely because I can be like, you know what? I have to go do a thing because I'm the host. We'll catch up later, and I can
Exactly the
exit
same.
that way.
Yeah.
When I'm guest Matthew, I've never, well, not never, but I've rarely brought host Matthew as a guest.
Hmm.
Like, for decades, I won't shake people's hands because I don't see the point in it. We don't need to touch.
I
I also, and I've said this before on the show, like this has come up a couple times, but like I go in the men's bathroom and I see what the men do in there and what they don't do on the way out. I'm like, no, I'm
oh
not going to shake your hand.
yeah.
No one should be shaking a man's hand. Hashtag not all men, but too many men.
Hashtag too many men.
Yeah. Um, and I would just get so much shit for it from people I even knew.
Yeah.
Like, oh, come on, give me a hug then. Like,
I
fucking hell, man.
Let's talk
Just we
about the
don't
hugging.
need to touch.
I have so here's the thing. There are approximately 4 people on earth that I find it pleasurable if they touch me in some way. I'm not
Mhm.
talking about sex. I'm talking
Yeah, no,
about
I
my
understand.
daughter hugging me, and that's beautiful.
Yeah.
So there are 4 people that if they touch me, I won't smack them
Mhm.
no matter what the situation is. I'm like, oh, you guys are my safe people, maybe 5. I don't like other people to touch me. Event Cami is a hugger and I don't like it, but I don't want to hurt people's feelings. So every time someone asks to hug me, I'm like, sure. And when I've tried not being the hugger, people have pouted about it. So if you're watching this and you love me and you come to an event, don't try to hug me.
Yeah.
If I say no, it's okay, you still don't have to hug me. I am trying to make other people feel better by hugging them. I don't want to hug you.
Yeah.
Sorry, not sorry. I don't like when people touch me.
Yeah. I don't care for it at all.
Yeah.
But it's that social lubricant stuff that I keep being told I need to do. And like right now I'm not even looking at the camera.
Yeah.
Um, but I just don't I do care. And to your point about that you said a few minutes ago about being, talked about behind your back and losing out opportunities and stuff like that. That's what I feel like is going on right now. I know it's not just that, but I feel like there's that on top of all the other stuff
Yeah.
is making it really hard for me to find work.
Yeah.
And I I don't I'm always the one that has to change for everybody else,
Right.
and I'm really tired of it. And I know that there are other people who have stood next to me who also feel that way, right? And but this is not about them. This is about me.
Yep.
And it's just fucking exhausting.
It really
It's
is.
really exhausting.
I really feel that need to change for other people. Similarly, I have had to do that my entire life, which is why I mask so well. Which is why even my own doctor, when told that I was diagnosed with autism, said
Hmm.
I never would have picked up on that.
Yeah.
Um, but I just lost the thread of my sentence. So back to you, Matthew.
Thanks. Back to the studio. Yeah, I don't know. I think oh, when was this? It was probably what is it? Is it May? Holy
It is
crap!
May 15th. Oh shit, I said this. I said that. I don't know when this is going to be.
2 weeks.
2 weeks? Okay. We're
Yeah,
recording it 2 weeks ago.
yeah.
Hmm.
Wait, no, we're recording it now.
But
Wait, are we recording it 2 weeks ago?
when they see this, we recorded it
Oh,
2 weeks
right.
ago.
I
Yeah,
got you.
yeah, yeah,
I got
yeah.
you. Yeah, I was like, wow, is it 2 weeks ago already? Um,
Time is slippery.
so I'm guessing sometime in March. Yeah, it was March because March marked a year after being laid off. Where I looked back at the previous, I don't know, 3, 4 months, um, and I weirdly I remember I was looking at that door, like I was looking that direction.
Hmm.
That's weird. I don't know why. Place is very important part of important aspect of how my memories get triggered. And it's not just the I need to go back to the other room to think about what I was or to figure out what I was going to say.
No, it's like a
But
full surrounding.
yeah,
Yeah, I get it.
I was like, oh, I think I'm burned out. But it's just like a low grade one,
Yeah.
but it's persistent and it's ongoing. I think those
And
are
if
the
you don't
signs.
deal with the persistent ongoing, then it becomes something
Yeah,
more. You
yeah.
said something about social lubrication earlier.
Hmm.
I want to talk about social lubricants. Uh, I quit drinking
Yeah, same.
in, let's see, so this is 2025. The last drink I had was in 2023, and it does not feel like it's been more than a year because it was not a problem for me.
Hmm.
And I am it is a problem for me when I drink. It was not a problem for me to quit drinking.
Hmm.
It is now a problem for me that every event I go to at which alcohol is available, if someone sees my drink, they will say, "What are you drinking?" And I will say, "Soda and lime." And they will say, "Let me get you a real drink." And I will say, "This is a real drink." And then they
Literally, it's in my
say,
hand. You can see it.
"Exactly." And then they
Yeah.
say again, "No, let me get you a real drink." And then I say, "I'm not drinking." And they're like, "Oh, you're not drinking today?" Then half the time they ask if I'm pregnant. I'm not pregnant and I'm never having another child. I'm almost 50. Leave me alone. Sorry. uh, or like they just want to have this long, and I want to start, or they ask why don't you drink? And I want to start asking people, why do you drink?
Yeah.
Like, I know why I was drinking. It was social lubricant, it was self-medication, my anxiety, my nerves. I don't want to be around people. How did you use alcohol before quitting to control how you are perceived or how you respond to others in social situations?
So I would say mostly I didn't.
Nice.
There, every once in a while, I can think of a couple times where, like, because I didn't, I still don't like not drink, but I
Hmm.
have probably the equivalent of a 6 pack of beer a year.
Yeah,
Sometimes we'll go to like Breakside or something, and I'll get like a little 4 ounce thing of
a
beer to
little
have with
taster.
the meal. Yeah.
Hmm.
But mostly I just don't. Sometimes I will have like gotten a beer, had a couple sips, but then I just hold it
Hmm.
so that no one bothers me.
Yes, I've seriously considered just getting a cider and walking around with it for that reason, but
Yeah.
yeah.
But like I would say mostly because I've always been like on this full disclosure, I'm addicted to sugar.
Me
Um,
too.
but I've always really looked down my nose at people who do drugs, and especially in high school, but also like drinking to excess. And I think that that's just sort of carried through my life where I just have this distance between me and intoxicants. There have been times when I've been drunk, do not care for it. But yeah, it's mostly I just don't do it anymore. And I think it really started probably in 2016 to really start like pushing out my barriers a bit
Hmm.
more, and just having lines I'm not crossing. And it is I don't want to say detrimental, but it really makes life a lot less convenient.
Say more.
In so probably in oh it was in 2020 when everything shut down and there was definitely no work. I had looked back on the previous 4 years. I mean, no, maybe it was 2022 by then, because it was 6 years I was looking over. Yeah, because I was looking over the past 6 years of my running my business, and I looked at all the work that tried to come in, but that I said no to because it didn't align with what I cared about.
Hmm.
Like I'd have to do too much rationalization to say yes for me.
Yeah.
And then I went through and I said, all right, if I had said yes to it and I said, here's what I'm bidding for this, and they said yes, how much would that money add up to? And it's like close to $1 million of revenue.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean that's what I would keep, because
Right.
I'd have to hire people to help me on stuff, but
Right. And
um,
taxes.
and taxes and stuff, but just straight up revenue.
Yeah.
And then I looked at, because yeah, that's right, because I took the emergency loan from the government to keep things going,
Mm-hmm. Small
and
business, something,
yeah,
something. Yeah.
and I didn't, and I was like, I wouldn't have to do this if I had taken that money from
Yeah.
those projects.
Yeah.
And even now, it's been three more days. It's 14 months um, of no revenue, and there's a couple things that try to come in. I'm just like, I can't help you sell more plastic.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, but if I took that money, it would keep us in a house for 2 extra months.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, and
Bef-
hope that it works out.
Before I left my last job, my therapist had made it incredibly clear that a lot of the problems I was struggling with were that my work environment was incongruous with my moral code.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
she was completely right. Like,
Yeah.
so right. Uh,
Not all tech,
Not all
but too
tech,
many
but too
tech.
much tech. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
very much.
Yeah. I don't even know if I have a point in all that, but I guess the point is, like, the social lubricant stuff. Like, I don't partake. The
I was,
handshaking, I get
oof,
weird looks still. The like even now, I'm like, you realize what we've been through for the past 5 years and is still technically ongoing.
yeah.
Um,
I'm
yeah.
amazed when people don't think it's, no, it's, we're there, we're done with that. No,
Yeah.
we're not. Sorry. Um,
Fewer people are dying, but people are still dying.
exactly.
Yeah.
I was raised in a family in which I've just lost my last fidget toy from the couch because it rolled away. Um,
You can get it.
no, I'm okay. I've got scrunchies.
You
Um,
don't have to mask.
Scrunchies.
Okay,
Yeah,
that works.
scrunchies are great, great for fidgeting. Um, I was raised in a very alcohol intoxicant forward family. Like my
Hmm.
entire family drinks. It is still a struggle with my parents, I think, to get them to understand that I'm not drinking because they're like, but we can go to a winery. It'll still be fun. And I'm like, that's not going to be fun for me. I don't want to go to a winery and watch you guys drink. It's just like I go to bars and that's fine. I don't have any problem. My partner still drinks. I don't have any problem with that. But like my family plans social activities and family
Right.
activities around alcohol.
Hmm.
And this is my entire life. Their parents did it. My aunts and uncles the same way. And in order to break that, it like that was the hardest part. The hardest part was actually dealing with my family's expectations of me and my family's expectations that we drink together. And I think part of it is no one in my family is very comfortable in social situations. And so everyone
Yeah.
medicates, self medicates. And I don't want to anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. It doesn't feel, not to overuse a word that's overused, but it doesn't feel authentic to who I am.
No.
And I don't want to, I want to be adaptable. I want to be resilient. I'm tired of bending on some things, and that kind of stuff is the stuff I'm really tired of bending for.
Yeah.
Um, so is there a Venn diagram that Cami can sit in the middle of where work environment and morals?
I think there is. There's an amazing company that I recently met one of the founders of. And this is the thing with startups. Startups are small, they don't have a lot of money, and I would love to work with them. And I'm trying to figure out a way to make that work because it hits the perfect Venn diagram of my passions and humanity and intersectionalism and DEI and feminist power, and my operations and community skills.
Hmm.
So I think that there really is. I just think it's a rare opportunity and something more that we have to make for ourselves. Every job I've ever had that was comfortable for me was something that I made it for myself, not something that someone else told me to do.
Yeah. I wonder if that's true for me.
I'm just everything where it was like really strict and rigid, I hated. And I'm thinking like
Yeah.
when I used to work for an interior design firm, and first I was their receptionist, and then I was the secretary, and then I did all of their documents, and then they made me the librarian of their samples because they were like, wait, Cami, you can organize all of these different kinds of samples and make them make sense. It was
And
like
you were
a
like,
it was a
duh.
dream come true for me, really. I was like carpet, wallpaper, fabric, paint, flooring, countertop. It really was a dream come true. All of these beautiful colors and textures and different weights of everything and chair samples and yeah, I mean, I was just like, yes, this is a mess. I already organized it. If you want that to be my job, done. And then the first startup I ever worked for, I wound up being the owner's boss, the founder's boss, because he didn't really like doing his work. But
Hmm. So let me ask you this. This is my way of putting it. But do you often find yourself end up or find yourself in situations where all of a sudden you realize, oh, I'm in charge,
yes,
and you don't know exactly. Like you may be able to look back, but like there's a way
at
of
the
looking at
moment
like,
you're like,
wait,
how the,
how?
where did
You're like,
this
how
come?
am I in charge?
Yeah, yes, frequently,
I've
frequently in
had
my
that
life.
so much, and it often ends, and often why it falls apart is like I end up in these situations where I'm in charge, but ultimately I don't have any authority to make the changes that are
Ex-
necessary.
exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Uh, oh, yes, that has been a problem with me. And everyone looks to you as though you have the authority
Hmm.
because you're so confident that your method or your plan or whatever that you're doing is correct. But yeah, I have found myself in that
So
position
weird.
many, many times. And I still don't know exactly what about me makes it happen, but I suspect that it's language confusion. I suspect that there's
How
we've
do you
just
mean?
so when let's take a person with autism versus a person with a neurotypical brain.
Okay.
If I want you to take on a project, I would say, Matthew, this project is perfect for you. Will you lead it?
Uh huh.
If a person without autism wants you to take on the project,
Hmm.
they're going to talk about it and hint at it. And they're going to be like, it's too bad that we don't have anyone who's taking care of this. And you're just trying to help out. And they're telling you that you're in charge, but they're never saying you're in charge. And they're certainly not giving you the authority. And I wonder if that's what I mean by communication. I wonder if
I
they
see what you mean.
think they're telling us, but they're not actually telling us.
Yeah. Maybe that's yeah. Yeah. I think it's there. Yeah. Several thoughts are trying to get out at the same time. I'm thinking of experiences where like I this goes back to my what I said earlier about like there isn't like hustle is bullshit because I'm much more of the let's be calm. Let's look at this. Let's let things be a little weird for a bit and understand why it's weird.
Yeah.
And then once we have that understanding, we know where to act that is going to have the most impact.
Yeah.
And what I hear with hustle is we're just going to run around and do things and hope that something works. And I'm more like, nope, I'm going to let this system be not great for a bit so I can understand it, and then
Mm-hmm.
I can understand. Like my classic is you have to, messing up my classic line of how well you define a gap usually influences how well you bridge it or fill it,
Yeah.
you know. and and I think that this sort of hustle culture is just activity that sometimes leads to outcomes rather than I'm more focused on I want to choose the right activity,
Yeah.
and I'm willing to let a couple of things burn for a bit so that instead of constantly running and putting out fires, I can make sure things don't catch fire in the first place.
Yes.
To lean into the metaphors.
Sustainable
Yeah,
and
sustainable.
consistent. Yeah.
Sustainable, consistent, predictable,
Mm-hmm.
getting shit done.
Mm-hmm. I love predictability.
And it's like I because I work that way, it doesn't take too long for the system to start functioning a little bit better.
Mm-hmm.
And then I have time to look at what else is not getting done.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll be like, this person is in charge of this and they're not doing their job. It needs to get done because it's important. I'll just do it. And I'll just get it
No,
done.
I mean, I do that too, but don't.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
should not do that.
I
This
know.
is both
But
for
then
ourselves
my
and for that person's
my
benefit.
sphere of influence gets bigger and bigger, and then I think this is why I end up in charge of things sometimes, because I start taking work from other people because they won't do it.
Yeah. You're like
And
a
then
big
my
rubber band ball.
yeah, that's it doesn't end up being sustainable because then I don't get their help later
Right.
because I'm training them to let me do their work for them
Exactly.
in a way, not that anybody thinks about it in those terms, but
No, but people often don't think about what's happening with the other people that they like. You and I are people who think about what is happening with every person that we interact with. Well, I'm
yeah,
saying that for myself, but I believe that to also be true of you. If I am in a situation, if I'm in a room with a person, I'm thinking about them. Even if I've never met them, even if we haven't had a conversation, if I have seen them in the room, my brain is like, I hope that they are comfortable. What can I do to support them? That's just the function of my brain. I cannot help it. I'm a people pleaser. Something, something, childhood trauma, blah, blah, blah.
yeah,
Uh,
the
it,
usual.
the usual. The usual. I should write a book of the usual. I mean, yeah, it's back to the empathy, the overwhelming empathy, because once you take those other jobs, that person feels better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Boo, helping people feel better. Ugh.
We got to find a way. One of the things that came out of my breakdown was acknowledging, and I don't even believe it, but I'm going to say it anyway, that I am just as valuable as all of the other people that I work to help and serve. And that if I don't prioritize myself and my own well being, I will not be able to help these other people who are so important to me.
Yeah, that doesn't sound right.
Right? It
Yeah,
doesn't.
but I'm also definitely one of those people who's like, I understand the reason why you put your mask on first,
Yeah.
so that you can help others.
Hmm.
So I get it, but I don't. I have a hard time implementing it.
You understand it for other people, you do not connect to it authentically yourself.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I'm working really hard to connect that authentically to myself.
Hmm.
Yeah, I'm still working on it. My feelings matter, unless they hurt your feelings. I'm sorry if I hurt your feelings earlier when I said don't hug me, but I meant it. Not
Those
you,
two things
them.
can exist. No,
Those people,
yeah, screw those guys. Um,
especially
the
Gary. Fucking
especially
Gary.
Gary. Yeah, I'm sitting here not reinforcing what you're saying, because you don't need an external voice saying that stuff to potentially trigger a defense mechanism. But generally, okay, cover your ears. You do matter.
God damn it! I covered my headphones.
Oh, shit.
All right.
So that's my fault. That's my fault, people.
My head. Yeah.
Yeah.
I should have
Your
covered my
ears.
ears instead. They're under.
Are those also your mic?
Yes.
Okay. Can you like you got quieter, so if you could like tilt them back towards, yeah.
Better?
Is that okay?
Yeah.
A little bit better. Yeah. Something has changed with your mic,
I also
but it's
yelled.
fine. I can hear you.
Okay.
Yeah. So the adaptive sound is probably like, whoa.
Quiet down, lady.
We're gonna switch gears.
Okay.
It's time for 7 plus or minus 2 questions.
Okay.
Ready?
I love lightning rounds.
Lightning rounds. I love a lightning round myself.
Let's do it.
That's why I'm doing it.
Yeah.
All right. What is something that went really well for you recently? Something you did that went really well.
I went on a little mini vacation for my cousin who turned 40. And I believe that we had the best possible time that we could have had in those 4 days, watching Lord of the Rings movies, cooking our own food, wearing big, soft, silky hoodies to cuddle on the couch, and just like completely renewing our cousinship that we have had. I mean, I've known her since she was born. But I think I did really well at being a friend and cousin to my cousin and celebrating, and I got to enjoy it.
That part. Great. All right, next question. It's kind of a slow lightning round.
It's okay.
Yeah. It's my speed. What do you wish people cared more about?
Other people.
Okay, great. What's your go-to dish when you're sharing food with other people? That something that you make.
Something that I make, gumbo. Chicken and andouille gumbo.
Walk me through it.
Okay, so when I was young, my mother and father were in New Orleans and took a cooking class and learned how to make gumbo. And they wanted to try something different for Christmas dinner, so they made gumbo for Christmas dinner, and we all loved it.
Mm-hmm.
This became a huge tradition in my family. No, we are not Cajun. And somehow I am not a recipe follower, but I need a recipe in front of me, except for like 5 dishes.
Mm-hmm.
Even though I'm not going to follow it, I need to look at it and know what adjustments I'm making. I haven't looked at a recipe for gumbo in more than 20 years. So you start out with the roux. I cannot have gluten, so I use a gluten-free flour, usually Bob's Red Mill 1-to-1 mix, and vegetable oil. And you have to stand at the stove with the heat on as high as you want it, as low as you want it. The higher it is, the less time it takes. The lower it is, the more time it takes. But the higher it is, the more likely
the risk
of burn.
Yeah.
So you have to brown this roux, and roux is a mix of 50% flour, 50% fat. Some people use butter, some people use oil. So I make this roux. I do a double batch of roux. I like 2 cups of flour and 2 cups of oil because I like a really thick roux-y gumbo. So once you have the roux done, well, before you do the roux, you actually chop up all of the vegetables. So it's the
Mise en
trinity.
place. Yeah.
Yes, you got to do equal parts celery, green peppers, and onions. I've made this so many times, and then I can't tell you.
That's not the French Trinity?
No, it's the Cajun Trinity.
Cajun Trinity. Okay.
Yes, the French Trinity has carrots instead of peppers.
Yeah.
And then garlic, lots and lots of garlic. And you pile all that up in a big stock pot. You pile the andouille sausage on top of it and the chicken that you have already cooked. You cook a chicken, you make the broth out of it. Meat is in there. And then now you've got the roux ready. You pour the roux on top of the gumbo, all of the garlic and beautiful stuff. And then you continue to cook that big pot without the liquid in it, just to kind of soften everything up, wilt it, and get it really well coated in the roux. And then you pour this giant chicken stock that you've made into the gumbo and you let it cook for hours. It is better the next day. It
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
perfect over a cup of rice. It is one of those things that you can feed an entire army with it. And it is just so comforting. And I just feel like it expresses love. It makes me feel like I am giving love to the person who's eating it.
Mm-hmm. Right on. I've never made gumbo before, so
It's super fun.
yeah.
If you decide to do it, I'm happy to walk you through it. You got to get the good on Dewey.
The good andouille. Okay.
So the good on Dewey, I mean,
Explain.
you can get passable on Dewey here in Portland, but if you want the good on Dewey, the on
Mm-hmm.
Dewey is primarily what flavors this gumbo. So if you want to get the good on Dewey, you have to order it from Jacob's in New Orleans, and they will dry ice and ship it to you.
Hmm. Do you brown it first, or does it just go in?
You no, I cut it lengthwise and then chop it up
Mhm.
into little pieces, pop it
Yeah,
in there, pull the skin off of
bite-sized
it.
pieces.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, when my daughter is eating with us, I do bigger pieces so that she can pull the andouille out because she's not a fan. She
Hmm.
likes the soup, but not the sausage texture. My daughter has autism
I
as
get that.
well. uh,
That's why I
and
don't. Part of the reason I don't like avocado.
talk to me about peas. Do you like peas?
I am pro pea
Okay.
for sure.
I couldn't eat peas most
I
of
don't
my
like
life
mushy
because
peas.
see, I'm the opposite. Peas are too round. I don't like them in my mouth. They don't feel like they
Mm.
should be in there. But if I mash them, it's acceptable to
I
me.
like the pop.
I like the pop
The
when it's a
pop.
boba, which is funny, but the pea, I can't
I
handle the
don't like
pop.
boba.
Hmm,
No. All
such
right, this
weirdos.
conversation's over.
All right,
All right.
likes peas.
Next question. Let's move on for the sake of everything. Um, and I should have prefaced all this by saying there's no guardrails to any of these questions. You
Okay,
can answer to however you want,
I will
and you
continue to
don't
do
have to
so.
answer. What is the business value of empathy?
What is the actual business value of empathy, or what is the perceived business value of empathy? Because the spectrum is huge. The business value of empathy is priceless. People do not understand that any business you're in, you're doing business with a person. I especially want people in tech organizations to understand this. Just because all you're touching is technology doesn't mean it's not for people. So if you don't have empathy baked into your business model, you need to find a way because you're probably a complete asshole and you're probably not doing good things for the world. So the perceived value of it is nothing. The actual value of it is everything.
And that is the correct answer. Thank
Oh,
you.
thank you.
All right.
Woo.
Next question. Waving at flaggers, yes or no?
Flaggers like construction flaggers? Yes, at the ones that let us pass. Like when
Hmm.
they're telling us to go, I wave at them. But I don't usually wave at the ones that are just standing there unless they look extra grumpy and like a big bear, and then I do because it is silly and I like seeing big grumpy dudes smile for no reason at all.
Probably an OnlyFans there. Um, the yeah, the reason why I've for this, I'm kind of when I get bored asking questions, I change up the questions,
Mhm.
and that's kind of how I'm defining seasons of sorts with this.
I was doing that
Um,
with the mildly interesting people. Rick and I were doing a podcast for a while,
mhm,
and I did a lightning question round. And yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
but I one day we were on 33rd in Northeast, and there was some construction going on, and I noticed the people coming. One person out of I don't know maybe 15 cars or something waved at the flagger. Everybody else didn't wave, and I'm like,
Rude.
why? What? And
That
that just
is.
seems so foreign to me.
I also say thank you when cars let me cross the street as a pedestrian, whether they can hear me or not. I always say thank
Right?
you because that's
Yeah,
what you do
because
when
you're.
someone.
Yeah, it's. I'm convinced that it's energy is better spent rewarding good behavior, and this kind of goes back to my maybe we should be correcting people. I don't know. Maybe I'm split on this, but we should be rewarding good behavior.
Yeah,
You know. Um. So I don't know. Maybe I need
punitive
to think more
shit
about that.
sucks.
It really tends not to work.
Yeah.
All right. Last question. Imagine it's a year from now. What do you hope to not be carrying anymore?
The weight of unemployment. Have I answered
Yeah,
all of the questions to your
that's it.
satisfaction? All right. Goodbye, everybody.
Good night, everybody. Let's stop talking.